welcome to Conversations for Our Time with the Quiet Sun team, John and George. This is podcast number 45. So, we think. So, it's been a while since we've done a podcast, and obviously, me and George have had our lives full of adventure and learning and all that kind of cool stuff. And me and George share like kind of an interesting interest, I suppose, is the best way to put it. And it's really like, the power of words, power of what we say to ourselves, how we say it, how we feel about it. And these are all really important things to experience because we are, we're constantly hypnotizing ourselves in all sorts of different ways. We're being hypnotized, and hypnotism is just a word, right? But we're very suggestive under the right conditions. And where many people that might be listening to this probably experience that conditioning, etc. Not much attention is paid to how we condition ourselves. And this isn't necessarily what this podcast is going to be about. Because our last podcast, we filmed it at the Walnut and we've had so much trouble. It's on my phone, but it's on the cloud. I've got no idea how to get it off. It's too large, etc., etc. So, but you can get caught up in the drama of, this was a great podcast. But the point is, like me and George had that experience. But that podcast, what was that about, George? The one we did at the Walnut?
I think we went deeper into just deeper levels of consciousness because we're really discovering that it's what it's all about. It's consciousness, and we're going into different levels of it, trying to understand the reality.
Yeah, exactly. So this is kind of on the same line. Consciousness. So I've been reading a book or a collection of books recently. It's Neville Goddard. People probably heard of this person, but he moved to New York when he was young for a different kind of reason to what he became. But he met a man called Abdullah, and he taught him. He interpreted the Bible in a very different way than anyone else was basically doing. And it was the Bible was a psychological story of mankind and their journey with consciousness. Consciousness meaning God or the mind, etc. And this is, George has got it as well. It's so powerful because he breaks down the Bible very, very articulately and carefully and explains what it actually means to use the code of how to live a life that is full of life. So it's very powerful, and it's not just a theoretical, philosophical kind of look at things. It's a practical thing to do to actually manifest the life that you desire, that you wanted when you were a kid. And it's all about feeling, but also reframing how to see yourself in relation to everything. Because you are the creator of your reality. You're creating every moment, every thought, every word, every feeling. Neville Goddard stipulated that we could use the knowledge of the mind and at what points it's suggestible to be able to hypnotize yourself or free yourself from your mind that's probably quite a good sum up, isn't it, George?
It is, mate. It is a great start to the podcast. Sorry, I just shut the window. What you've said is basically where you and I are at. We're really going deep into the aspects of consciousness to actually discover what it is, because there is really only one reality. And the more I learn about this, the more I'm going to say that this external reality is the projected. We are the projector. And it isn't real. The external is not real. And we often try to change things on the outside, which is not really the correct way to do it. The only real reality is us and what's going on within ourselves. So the Bible is, for me, the most important book on this earth in a non-religious sense. There are many people who have broken down the Bible in many different ways. Neville does it for me differently. The Bible is very much, it's very much astrology, astrotheology, etymology, numerology, and physiology. It is about us. And it is quite easy to get into, I don't want to say traps, because our true state is that we're always free in every moment, no matter what's going on, because we are at the center of the universe at all times, no matter what's going on. So we have to be very careful of abracadabra, the words that we use. We ultimately, and I know what I've just said, but we ultimately trap ourselves with the words that we speak. We do need to be more careful. And then we finger point, and then we give away our responsibility. One of the most not so easy things to do is to control the thoughts, the feelings, and our actions. Our thoughts and feelings that create a synthesis that creates our behavior. We are triune gods. Three, one. And you're right, there is a lot of conditioning that has gone on in this world. The world is deliberately set out like that because it's a game of life. And people are suffering, but we have chosen this, no matter, regardless of people, can always accuse of our way of thinking that it is new agey. It's not. It is our responsibility to be careful with the words that we use. I don't always get this correct, but we cannot sit here pretty for trillions of years in a blissful state and grow and evolve. It has to be set out like this, the world as we see it, to grow, to evolve. And Neville has a different way of breaking down the Bible. We are essentially consciousness. We are swimming in consciousness. I think he actually used those words because I've always used those words. And it's funny that I read that in the book. I read it somewhere recently. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into what we've learned about consciousness. That we are the actual reality. That we only need to make a decision of what we want here in the present moment. We have to understand what the present moment is. The present moment is the awareness, and that awareness, as Neville speaks, is the Father in heaven. And we are also the virgin birth. We are the Virgin Mary. And these are all aspects of our brain because we are triune gods. And we are the only species in the known universe to have the R complex, the mammalian limbic brain, and the neocortex. We are triune gods. And there are many, many traditions that explain this, that we are the Holy Trinity, triune gods. We can go into Babylonian times, we can go into Egyptian times, we can go into the Indus Valley, you know, the Hindu philosophy, but all expressing aspects of consciousness that is the triune aspects of ourselves. So we have our thoughts, emotions that create synthesis and also create our behaviors, triune aspects. We have the triune aspects within the brain, as I've just explained. And one important thing to associate with the Bible is very much astrology. It's very astrotheology, and it's very exoteric knowledge. And it is basically based on the stars and the heavens above. But that external astrotheology knowledge is a doorway for the esoteric internal, which is what the Father, Joseph, and Mary, Mother, and Jesus is. It's the Holy Trinity. So the left side of the brain is masculine, that's Joseph. The right side is Mary. And when they create atonement at one ment, they create a synthesis, and the virgin birth, the real esoteric internal knowledge is born, which is Jesus, the light of the world, God's Son, the light of the world. It's talking about Christ consciousness. It's talking about the neocortex. That is the brain, the cerebrum, cereal, the seed, the essence of all. Brum is the vessel of God. And it ends in El, which is in Hebrew is God. And that's what we are. We are the higher brain versus the lower brain. The higher brain is God, the lower brain is the ego. And this is where we trap ourselves. And although I don't like to say those words, because we are free in every moment, because all we are doing is swimming in consciousness, and that's what God is. So that's the beginning stage of how I like to introduce what we're talking about. I'm going to hand it over to you, John.
Sorry about that, George. Folks, yeah, the journey we're on, it's crazy, man. You know, well explained. I'd like to read something, and this is a passage from a book called The Gosho, which was written by a Japanese monk. It's the Buddhism that I practiced for 15 years. I chant a mantra, which is Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. And it's done amazing things for my spiritual journey and understanding. And so this passage is brilliant. Like, if you know what it means, you kind of realise exactly what Neville Goddard's talking about. Yeah. So if you wish to free yourself from the sufferings of birth and death you have endured since time without beginning, and to attain without fail unsurpassed enlightenment in this lifetime, you must perceive the mystic truth that is originally inherent in all living beings. So this mystic truth is explained as Namyo or Myoho Renge Kyo, which is the simultaneity of cause and effect, right? That we have the power to create change immediately. We can manifest things immediately. And this particular Buddhism breaks down cause and effect and how it's latent and then it manifests into the environment. That latency is the creator, right? So it's very interesting, because my journey towards Neville Goddard, I don't think I'd be able to understand what he's saying, even the astrotheology, if it weren't for a passage like this, which is, it's very well explained that if we see that we are being influenced by the environment and influenced by everything around us, we always suffer, because there's no power, there's no empowerment from it, right? So the only way you can stop yourself from suffering is if you realise that you are, in Buddhism, you're a Buddha. And things are temporary, they come and go, but as a Buddha, you manifest. There's like 32 manifestations of like a character of a Buddha, right? And what they're actually able to do, transform stuff into different things and that kind of stuff. So it's like the Bible, it's all metaphorical to what human beings actually are, but the Maya, the illusion that's cast over us is the conditioning. It's the conditioning away from you are God. You're the universe. In that, Buddha talks about the universe being in a tiny speck of dust, right? Everything is contained within that speck of dust. You're getting into quantum physics there, right? This is what Neville Goddard was talking about. This is where people like Joe Dispenza have evolved it into a scientific understanding of it. But you've broken down the etymological interpretation, and it's the greatest thing is through our study of it, we get into that felt sense. Because what Neville Goddard was saying is it's the same as a Buddha. When you're in the Buddha state, you don't feel better than anyone else. You just feel completely within your power at that present moment. So Buddhism is a kind of, you can go from one present moment of being a Buddha to being in the world of hell, because if you lose sight of being a Buddha, so it's very interesting. I wanted to bring that in because there are many ancient texts that say exactly the same thing. You just have to know how to read them. And the greatest thing is if you compare how you live your life to the Bible or a Buddhist scripture or something like that, you can see its direct reflection is that if you just read it, it doesn't make sense. Loads of things in life are like, why the hell's that happening? Why is this happening? But when you interpret it through the eye of purity, you see the hidden code or the hidden secrets inside. So, yeah, that's what I'd like to add. And let's see where it goes from here, George.
Sure, yeah, absolutely beautiful, absolutely. And this is what I wanted to add to this. There's a lot of ancient texts, and a lot of these traditions are alluding to these things. They allude into who we really are. And, there has been mistranslations, there has been a general confusion. We have to, it's more of an undoing for me. I have done nothing but try to reprogram my mind for the last 15 years, and I don't think that is the only sole way of doing it, and I don't think I've achieved what I wanted to do to reprogram the mind. It is more of an undoing and a peeling away that maya, that illusion to who we are. Because there's a lot of false constructs that we can create through abracadabra, the words that we speak, when we're not conscious of what we're speaking of. And we will have these, we are the cause, and we will have the effect come back on us, and then we'll start complaining, and then we'll start suffering again, and we'll start giving our power away to something in the 3D that doesn't really, you can't really change it if you really understand quantum physics, that it really comes from you, it comes from us. And all of these ancient texts are alluding to the fact of what we need to do. And we need to awaken in the present moment. It's all about awakening in the present moment and taking off the deconditioning ourselves rather than, yeah, it's about deconditioning ourselves, taking away all that stuff that we've learned, and then eventually you get to the essence of you. We have to really accept, and I know it's a big one to accept, that we are cause of all of our suffering. We have to understand that life is a feedback system, that I honestly believe that we can come into this world with wounds as a baby, as a child from previous lives, because we've got to really accept that we've pretty much done it all in previous lives. Like, we've been bad people, probably, and we do experience our own karma in the next lifetime. So we would need to clean up our acts in this lifetime to make it easier on us, you know, unless we want to break the cycle of samsara. But the suffering is all coming from us, and it's more about the undoing and coming back to the present moment and realizing, like when Neo says, why does my eyes hurt so much? It's because you've never seen the world the way it truly is. And it's about undoing. So the present moment, we live in infinite realities in the present moment. There has only been the present moment. There hasn't been nothing else. There's no 5 minutes from now. There's no 5 minutes to come, because that's an illusion. It's a construct. We have been given the false construct of time, and the way that the world is set out is very earthly. It's very left-brained. We have been almost molded in a way to be very left-brained, which we need to bring in the right side of the brain. This is the wisdom part of us. The left side of the brain is very time, it's very linear, and it doesn't really work that way. We have been conditioned to understand seconds, the gradations of time, seconds, minutes, hours, days, weeks, and there is no such thing as these things, and I'm going to explain why that there is no such things. These are the things that will keep us in the material world, but we really need to bring the right side of the brain and realize that there is no time. So with the second, it's very much connected to astrotheology from the Bible, that, as I say, that will open the door for the esoteric knowledge. We must realize that the second is attributed to Mercury, which is the second object in the solar system. That's why it's the second. And then you have the minute. The min is associated with the moon because there was a goddess of moon. And then we've got the sun, this eye of Horus. Horus is attributed to the hours because it's an anagram. Horus is an anagram of hour. And then you have the day that is attributed to the earth because it takes 24 hours for the Earth to spin on its axis to complete the revolution. And it just goes on and on and on. There is no, and same with the solar return. There are only cycles of time, as small cycles and as big as cycles as the yugas. So we must get rid of this concept, this false construct of time. There is only now. There is only the present moment. I'm not saying I've cracked the code and I've cracked it all, but we're really beginning to awaken to that awareness. And the more we stay in that awareness in the present moment, the more of everything that we want will come into our. It's an allowing of the unfolding, allowing everything to unfold perfectly, because you are the only reality. There is no reality outside. You are the reality. You are in control, and you must stay here at the present moment to get everything that we want. And this is where me and John are at. This is the deepest spirituality stuff that we've ever come across. It's come into our lives for a reason. I want to say this. It's come into our lives for a reason. It's because we're ready for the next stage of evolution. I'm going to pass it over to you, John.
Thank you, George. Yeah, man. Wow. It is, yeah, you're just kind of alluding to this, the unveiling. I think, for a long time in my life, I was very resistant to change. And it brought up all sorts of different feelings, but mainly it was fear. So I created a persona to, not when I was a kid, I'm talking when I was a young adult. I created a persona to kind of protect myself, and I realised, my suffering came from my unwillingness to let go of what has been, or what I, the interpretation of who I thought I needed to become, to maintain this identity that I had of myself as a reflection of my interaction with other people. And I remember, I used to get called a preacher. I mean, up until quite recently, So what I've realised is the more, we've all been through a situation in the last 5 years that's been very traumatic for everyone, in different ways. And what I learned through that process, although I've been practicing Buddhism for some time, was I still wanted to change my environment, i.e. the people. I wanted them to reflect what I felt, see what I saw, the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? And I realised that this is what we're talking about, right? With Neville Goddard is, and the same with Buddhism. When you're trying to change your environment, the vibration that you're trying to change it at isn't coming from a place of love, God, because it's when you have faith, as you develop your faith, better way to put it, as you develop your faith, you are on a journey to let go of the things you know deep in your heart you cannot change by shouting. It's much more effective, but it takes a lot more faith, because it's about having faith in life, taking that leap of faith. When you really work on yourself, you don't have to do anything to the environment. Because a Buddha creates a vibration, or the Buddha state creates a vibration where you will attract exactly what you truly desire, i.e., you know, you're attracting things to you to the level of vibration that you're at. When you're trying to change things externally, you're still doing that, but you're attracting more anger, aggression. You see what you're projecting out, what you're trying. If I'm, oh, I can't believe you can't see this. You're getting all agitated. That's what you're going to get back, and that's what I realised. And it's only been really recently that I've been practicing letting go of the short-term, immediate, impact, rather than deepening my faith and knowing that everything I'm doing it from a place of love, will lay latent, and it will manifest exactly when it's right to manifest. When your essence creates it, and that only comes when you're letting go. So yeah, George, I think it's a groovy ride, man.
It certainly is a groovy ride. It is. If I look at my events of my life and what's taken me to come here, it's been a very, very bumpy road. A one that had pure suffering, pure suffering, and pointing the fingers, always pointing the fingers at everybody else, not taking responsibility for myself. And I was creating my own suffering. And whatever you shout about on the outside world, and yeah, there's going to be people that say this is new age, but it isn't true. I know in my heart what I'm saying is true. That the conflict has always been within. That is it. We create that separation, and we try to identify things, defining things that creates the separation. And then we suffer and we feel like we're being pulled apart. All of it comes from the ego mind. We understand that the ego mind has a lot to cry out for, the injustices of the world. And we say things like, the world is run by these and these and these and these. I said this on the last podcast with Lisa. We say that the world is run by Satanists. Well, abracadabra. If we say these things, we are going to see the evidence of that the world is run by these illusionists that have supposedly power over us. All of it's an illusion. We created that from the ego construct because we didn't take enough responsibility for ourselves to realize that we are the only true reality. So it's about coming back to the present moment, always coming back to the present moment and having that faith within our Father in heaven, which is the awareness in the present moment, and realizing that the world is unfolding from us, from within us. And the state of being that we want to achieve is not just atonement, but it is love. Everything else is an illusion. The darkness is an illusion. Fear is an illusion. You cannot shine darkness on light. You can only shine light on darkness. You can only do that. And it's about coming to the self-union. S-E-L-F. L in the middle of self is God. And it's right at the center of our being because we are at the center of everything. Everything at all times, at every moment. Even I say the word times, it can still happen. And every moment we are at the center of the universe. And Uni, one. On is an ancient Egyptian city. They believed it was the city of light. That's why you go into a dark room and you turn the light on. It's all symbolic. Thank you, Jordan Maxwell, who brought that to my attention. So the self-union is the God. God is one light. And like the Buddha says, when you reach enlightenment, it's like 1,000 suns rising at the same time. And this is the achievement that we can have. We can achieve this at any moment when we stop and be present in the present moment, where all that chatter can stop, and it's about staying in there. So we are the self-union. We are that love. And that's, I think that's the perfect way to end the podcast. So I'm just going to hand it back to you, John.
Beautiful, George. Nice one, mate. Yes. Great podcast. I mean, it was a bit of a crazy time to get onto this. So, yeah, man. We're really glad. We're going to try and upload that previous podcast, although it's really good. But if not, we'll do another one. I hope everyone out there is just, being positive and looking at life, feeling grateful. That's what I'm really learning at the moment. Gratitude. But thank you, George. Thank you, everybody. Stay cool and enjoy the sunshine that's there. You are the sunshine.
Thanks, folks. See you next time.